Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're going to be doing a Black Friday tier list 2025 version. We have a ton of ships to go over, but first let's mention that this is purely subjective. So comment down below what your favorite Black Friday ships are. I'll give you mine in this tier list, try to explain a little bit as to why I like or maybe don't like certain ships. As always though, if you enjoy a particular ship that I don't rate very highly, just ignore what I have to say and continue to enjoy that ship, because that's what it's all about with playing video games, is to have a good time. As for assigning value, in the past I've tried to do this, but it is so difficult to assign value. So for the most part, I'm going to be talking about these ships based on their gameplay characteristics. It's totally up to you to decide if these ships are worth the money or not. Some of them are going to be a little easier than others to do that with, and I may bring that up periodically depending on if we have some coal ships or things like Puerto Rico, which are 400 plus US dollars. As always, there will be timestamps linked below, or you should be able to scrub along the timeline to get to the ships that you're most interested in, or I guess skip to the end too. Although I would appreciate if you come along for the ride, just hang out while we talk about some of these ships. Gonna be a lot of vibes-based ranking here. I do want to play more of these ships over the next month to get more specific into them, so check out some of those videos going forward if you're interested. Up first, we have Alabama, a ship that I think is decent, but not anything particularly special. It is a little bit worse accuracy than North Carolina, the tech tree version, alongside being a little bit tankier. Better maneuverability than NC, and certainly the torpedo protection is very, very good on Alabama. But just that little bit less accuracy feels kind of bad. And so Alabama becomes a pretty middle-of-the-road Black Friday ship to get. It's not offering anything particularly unique, in my opinion. If you're looking for a tankier version of NC, I guess that would be a reason to look for it. But you also have to not be interested in brawling with secondaries, okay? There's a certain ship that it may or may not be one of my favorites in this game that is only available during this Black Friday event. That's the Massachusetts. Maybe a reason to hold off on something like Alabama. Here we can see some of the features of the ship and of course the price. I believe this is in US dollars as I'm not signed in, so $30 US for this tier 8 premium. As always, pretty decent discount on Black Friday when it's tier 8s and below. Good survivability for the most part. Main batteries are hard to lead though, of course, slow shells. They talk about high AA efficiency, but I haven't really found that, to be honest with you. But the maneuverability is quite good on Alabama. So a pretty reasonable start for me to put this in C tier, kind of just middle of the road. Up next, of course, we're going in alphabetical order here with Alaska, and it's just going to go straight up into S tier. This is the only time you have to buy the Alaska. It's an incredibly strong tier 9. The reasons not to get it is inconsistent dispersion at times. However, if you watch my recent video on Puerto Rico, outnumbered is kind of incredible. I may have to go back and look at all of these battle cruisers going forward and actively trying my best to proc outnumbered, because that skill is incredible, giving you 10% better dispersion when the enemies and friendlies in your ship are even, or there are more enemies within your gun range. It is very, very useful. And because of that, alongside the incredible utility, Alaska is a very, very strong ship. Okay, I'm going to put it all the way up in S tier. It's really hard to assign value, of course. This ship being 74 US dollars is not cheap. But if you're interested in Alaska, if you're interested in that Puerto Rico playstyle, as I featured a little while ago, this is a much cheaper way to get into this ship. And again, it's only available during this Black Friday event. For direct purchase, by the way, too. You can't get this one for doubloons. I know I said I wouldn't talk about value, but it's an expensive ship, but you can only get it here. And I do think it is incredibly strong. American radar is very good here. The armor overall is decent, certainly very good for a cruiser. It's not going to hang with battleship armor, but you shouldn't expect that out of a battle cruiser here. Improved pen angles on these main guns. They are very, very slow shell velocity, but it's Des Moines pen angles on the AP here, which does very good. The HE pens over 50, which is very, very useful. Its maneuverability they talk about is a little bit low, and for the most part it kind of is, but with prop mod you can accelerate juke a lot, and playing around islands there too is very, very nice. But having these very, very punchy guns alongside the utility of American radars. It's a very good ship. And I'm very, very excited to take a look at Alaska again this month. So that's why it's going up in S tier. Onwards to Asashio, another one of these rare ships that you can only get during Black Friday. And maybe that's bumping up the rating here a little bit. I'll be honest with you, I do not like playing Asashio at all. It's a torp boat for one. As you guys know, I'm not as much of a torp boat player. I prefer gunboats when I'm playing destroyers. I find their impact to be a little more consistent. On top of that, Asashio's main weakness is that it can't hit cruisers or destroyers with its torpedoes. Very, very limiting. You only get battleships and carrier damage out of the torps. However, the damage is very good. The concealment is great on these torpedoes, as is the range, allowing you to be somewhat effective in most parts of the battle against those battleships. However, I find myself getting locked out of games a lot in Asashio, but maybe that's because I'm more of a gunboat player. If you're interested in torp boats at all, this is your one time of the year to get the Asashio, so that could be an interesting pickup for you. But if you're more like me, or you're on the fence about torp boats in general, I would maybe even pass on Asashio. This one doesn't seem to be all that useful or consistent, in my opinion. As far as tier 8 destroyers go, it's unique, certainly, but it's held back a lot by those torpedoes and the extreme lack of gunpowder. The concealment is incredible, though, so you can outspot a lot of destroyers, but then you're relying on your teammates to deal damage to what you're spotting. And I don't think I need to go into how team play goes these days. And here you can see what the list of features is, but that low DPM, the torps are, I mean, they call them a really big advantage here, but this downside is very, very crucial to talk about. Basically, no AA on this ship. Its speed is a little low for a DD, 35 knots, still reasonably quick, but importantly, your detection is very, very good. And you get a torp booster to reload those torps very, very quickly when you need to put out a massive salvo. As always with these tier 8s with Black Friday, $37, a little bit easier to stomach that compared to some of the tier 9 and certainly the tier 10 prices. So for those reasons, I'll put it up in B tier, but I'll be honest with you, the rarity or the limited nature of getting this ship only during Black Friday is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. For me personally, it would drop down a couple. As for the Atago, this is one of the classic tier 8 premium cruisers in the game. It's been in the game forever at this point, and I still really like this ship. Its DPM is certainly limiting, but having a heal at tier 8 is so valuable on a cruiser. We're getting more of those recently. Certainly Wargaming with their more modern releases at tier 8 tend to have a heal on cruisers. I wonder why. But Atago also retains some very nice deck armor. It's like 41 millimeters, something like that, allowing you to, even in up tiers, have some reasonable protection, at least at longer ranges when you're angled. Crucially, this ship also has great detection, very comfortable torp angles. It's very underrated for at least the older line of Japanese cruisers. The new light cruiser line also gets very, very good torp angles. But Atago combines that with very hard-hitting guns thanks to the 203s here. The HE just deals a lot of damage. And the AP can do all right into cruisers as well. I find this very enjoyable as the concealment and speed allow you to play almost anywhere you want to. You get to decide where to play, where to fight, and to disengage almost at will. It's a really, really fun ship to play. Although, let's be honest, tier 8, you get up-tiered, and cruisers are not particularly easy to play. So if you're a little worried about your battle impact as a cruiser, Atago requires some skill in positioning, I think. It's not one that you can just park behind an island and start farming with high DPM or anything like that. It needs to get a few critical salvos off into destroyers early on or flanking, anything like that, to get good battle impact. If you're just using it to standard farm, it's going to do okay, but it's just lacking a lot of DPM. Fortunately, the heal helps you to stay alive in the vast majority of games where a lot of the other cruisers at your tier without heals are really going to struggle. Atago also being a tier 8 here for $31 US. And yeah, the AA is also a bit of a problem with this one. It is very, very bad. So a carrier can hover you, and that reduces some of the value of the flanking maneuvers that Atago is pretty good at usually. and perhaps a bit of a high rating at A tier, but I think I'll put it there still just for nostalgia factor, and I personally still enjoy playing Atago even today, but maybe that's because this was one of the original premiums that I bought back in the day that I still really enjoy. All right, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Atlanta is very hard to play. Light cruisers are not easy to play in this game. However, Atlanta is one of the most fun ships tier for tier in the game. The amount of DPM you have for a tier 7 is kind of ridiculous. Having a radar as well makes this ship extremely effective against its own tier. The lack of range, the shell velocity, big problems, very little armor, no heals. It's hard to play this ship, okay? But I absolutely love playing Atlanta. As far as unique ships go, we talked about this with Alabama. It just kind of blends in with the tech tree version, the NC. So it's not particularly compelling. Atlanta, in my opinion, is the opposite of that. It's hard to play, but it's very unique and extremely fun to play. At least if you're someone who enjoys those light cruisers. High risk, high reward DPM playstyle. Being a tier 7, it's also down to 21 US dollars. It can be had for doubloons as well. Most of these ships can. It really is just Massachusetts, Jean Bart, Asashio, and Alaska that can't be had for doubloons. And unfortunately, it's a little misleading on this page for AA defense. They kind of carved this ship up when they redid the CV rework back in the day. This ship essentially gets no flak and gets very, very little DPS on its AA. So while you do have unlimited damage control consumables, you're buffing some very, very weak AA, unfortunately. Atlanta used to be a monster of AA at its tier, and now, yeah, it's really not very good at all, even though you get an unlimited consumable here. But a very easy A tier for me personally, even possibly up into S tier. If I was to start an account again, I'd just want to get an Atlanta again if I had to start fresh, because I enjoy the ship and its playstyle so much. But that one is a hard ship to play, and that would be the reason to maybe avoid it. It's quite frustrating to just explode in these light cruisers while you're trying to get the hang of that playstyle. On to Azuma, which is a tier 9 battle cruiser, which is very, very large. This ship takes a ton of damage thanks to not even having 30 millimeters of armor, and is a massive target that's not particularly maneuverable. However, these guns are extremely powerful. The HE does incredible damage, and the AP is incredibly powerful at these ranges too. You're not going to be playing it terribly close, I don't think. It can't survive for very long there. But as far as HE farmers go, they're pretty decent. This one and Yoshino play quite similarly. The tier 9 version gets fast cooldown heals, which is nice to help keep it alive. However, I don't find it particularly interesting, the playstyle. It's a little boring. You know me. I like to push in, I like to play aggressive, perhaps too much so, and ships like this one just don't suit my playstyle. But if you're interested in some consistent long-range firepower that is much more accurate than a battleship and much more engaged than, say, a battleship would be at those really long sniping ranges, you're shooting more often, that kind of thing. A little better concealment, a little bit better speed as well to maneuver around the map. And that heal does help keep it alive. No torps, notably, on Azuma, though. This could be an interesting one for you. However, being a tier 9, we see the price goes up right away. Only a 15% discount on these tier 9, so it's 62 bucks this year. It's a pretty easy C tier for me. Rather middle of the road, not particularly interesting ship for me and my playstyle. Although notably Azuma you can get for coal. Alongside black. This is the issue with some of these expensive tier 9s, is that you can get them just by playing the game for free and grinding out coal. Black though is an incredibly strong tier 9 destroyer. You lose out on torps compared to Fletcher, at least in my opinion. I prefer Fletcher torps. These do a lot of damage, but the speed is just so low on these torpedoes that it's hard to aim them at any target in particular. You just kind of throw them out and hope they hit someone in a common gap or choke point. However, you retain Fletcher DPM and get a radar. The ship has a 7.5 kilometer radar that lasts for 19 seconds, going with a smoke screen and great concealment already. Solid DPM for a tier 9 DD. Makes you a pretty monstrous cap contester. The ship is very, very good at dealing with enemy destroyers, and once they're dealt with, you can do some farming out of your smoke screens, or you can try to go in for torp runs with these very slow, high damaging torps. As someone who enjoys gunboat destroyers, getting into those gunfights, contesting caps, I really like playing black. I wish the torps were a little bit more consistently usable, but that would probably be too good to give us a Fletcher with a radar, essentially. And it still is basically that. It's very expensive here, though, so if you're interested in it and you're willing to grind out the coal for it, which is still, it's a lot of coal to get this one, it's a fun ship and well worth looking for. Which is why it ends up in A tier for me. Not necessarily on value, but on playstyle, it's a really fun ship to have. Brandenburg's in a bit of a strange spot as a tier 8 brawling battleship. German line, so you're getting the ability to run Luchins, which is really useful. Brandenburg runs better secondaries, actually, than the Tirpitz even. It reminds me a bit of a Mecklenburg, but at tier 8. However, it does not get the advantage that Mecklenburg has, which is battle cruiser dispersion with 2.05 sigma, I believe, on that one. This is battleship dispersion and 1.8 sigma. 12 guns, 305s. That's kind of why it reminds me a bit of Mecklenburg, although that one gets 16 guns, of course. A little bit lower HP pool, too, crucially here, compared to the Tirpitz. And unfortunately, we don't have a Hydro on this one. Still get Torps, like a Tirpitz, but if you're interested in this playstyle brawling battleship at tier 8, Tirpitz might be a little bit easier to play thanks to having a little bit more HP. The guns hit a little bit harder, maybe not quite as consistently, but I find them to be more enjoyable than the 305s here on Brandenburg. Notably, your firing angles are very bad on these main guns as well. Unfortunately for Brandenburg and a lot of these tier 8 brawling battleships, the shadow of Massachusetts is very, very long, okay? And these poor ships are just not as good, okay? They're just not as good. Being a tier 8, we get a 30% off, gets that $31 US. And while they talk about high survivability, it's a German battleship. You got superstructure. But I will say, the extra secondaries, the firing angles on the secondaries are pretty solid. So assuming people don't shoot your superstructure, I don't know why they would do that. They should just shoot your superstructure. When you're angled, you are reasonably tanky and can brawl it out. It's pretty fun at closer ranges too with those torpedoes. So while it's not a bad ship, and maybe D tier isn't very fair to this thing, it's just Massachusetts is better. And I prefer Tirpitz as well over Brandenburg. So for me, it drops down a lot because of that. The firing angles are really unfortunate too, making you go so broadside to actually fire all of your guns, which are 305s at tier 8, and suddenly you get a lot of full pens into your broadside because you're giving so much broadside to fire all of those guns. Back to some strong ships though with Brisbane, tier 10 light cruiser. It's a bit like a Minotaur with HE and radar only. You don't have a smoke screen here. The DPM is a lot lower though, thanks to having that high explosive, but it's very convenient to not only be reliant on armor piercing like a Minotaur is. It gives you a little more flexibility in your positioning. Super heal here, maneuverability is great, concealment is great, stealth radar, very, very useful on a ship like this one. It's a 12-kilometer radar as well, which we usually don't see unless it's the Soviet cruisers, for example. So very interesting to have that 12-kilometer radar there. The torpedoes are also quite excellent. Reload is fine, but you do get 10 of those torps per side, and they go out to 13.5 kilometers. So it's a menace on a flank. It's very difficult to push into a Brisbane because it can decide to engage. It can decide when to engage or not. Pretty much a destroyer that is spotting a Brisbane is getting radared back. So it's very risky to go outspot a Brisbane so the battleships can all shoot at it. So Brisbane requires a lot of skill to play, okay? But it's very, very powerful in the right hands. Light cruisers, we talked about this with Atlanta though. It's hard to play these things. It's hard to play them well. But when you get the hang of this playstyle, there's a lot of power here, a lot of battle impact. You can carry a lot of games, and Brisbane is very solid. Although there are a few major cons to this ship outside of just exploding when it gets shot at by some of these battleships these days. Its price is very high, right? Tier 10, and it's available for coal these days. So spending real money for it or doubloons for it, you could just save up your coal and get this one for free. But still an incredibly powerful ship and deserves to go in A tier for me. Easily one of the hardest destroyers at tier 8 to deal with is the Cossack. This ship combines torp boat concealment alongside some of the better guns at its tier for destroyers. Now, they're very floaty shells, but at those closer ranges, it's very, very difficult to deal with a Cossack because it dictates the engagement a lot of the time. It can choose to engage or not. Even in some of my tier 10 destroyers, it is difficult to deal with a Cossack when it's played well. This concealment and these smokes, allowing it to go dark almost at will, it's very, very hard to deal with. It gets great burst damage thanks to having 8 guns. You gotta go a lot of broadside to use these guns, however, so you gotta be a little bit careful there. But the maneuverability is great here, being a British destroyer. That acceleration built in is very nice. Still gets an engine boost on top of that. And you get a personal hydro. That close range 3-kilometer hydro lasts forever. Allows you to very easily dodge those torpedoes. However, no heals here. Up tiers for tier 8 can be a problem. Your AA, not good at all. I know I said I wasn't going to mention that much, but being a gunboat, something that wants to play with its concealment, surprising enemy destroyers, it's hard with carriers that can just hover you without really taking much damage at all. With the Black Friday event, you get a nice opportunity to get 30% off with this ship. And if you're playing ranked, if you're playing any sort of game mode where you want to be contesting areas of the map, Cossack is very good. The guns I find to be quite satisfying, although difficult to use at further ranges. That sort of gunboat playstyle, close range, knife fighting, getting into it with other destroyers. The fact that you outspot all these other gunboat DDs is crazy, and your guns are just as powerful or more powerful than the gunboats at tier 8, especially at closer ranges. It is very, very fun to play. So for me, a pretty easy A tier here. I like this ship a lot, and I would be interested in getting it again. And Black Friday discounts, pretty nice opportunity to get this thing. Maybe a little rude to put a tier 6 premium so low here, but I just do not enjoy playing the Dunkerque. I find the guns to be rather inconsistent. 1.7 Sigma battleship dispersion, 330mm guns for tier 6 is fine enough, but unfortunately for Dunkerque is it gets overmatched by a lot of the ships that it's fighting against. So playing this bow on playstyle is very, very difficult to make work. All the guns are at the front. It leads you to play like that. At higher tier, you start to play that way with 32mm of armor, especially in the mid-tier range before we start seeing 32mm overmatch quite so much. Even Bart can play like that quite well. This ship does not have the accuracy, the consistency that Bart would have at that higher tier, nor the reload booster that makes that ship so incredible. And getting overmatched like that, it's fast enough, I suppose, comparing to a lot of these lower tier battleships where they tend to go like 20, 24 knots, something like that. Getting close to 30 knots is an advantage. However, the concealment is quite poor as well. But it's tier 6. I shouldn't be too hard on it. And honestly, it's really not that expensive, you know, 30% off of tier 6 prices. It gets pretty low, but I just still would skip on this one. This is a ship that I never think to play out and never am really interested in playing personally. And maybe that's the best way to look at these lower tiers on my tier list, is that maybe they're not bad ships. It's just, for me, I don't enjoy playing them. So Dunkerque, D tier for me. As far as these tier 9 brawling battleships go, Iwami is rather unique. Being in the Japanese line, this ship is very much focused on main guns still. These 410mm main guns, you get battleship dispersion 2.1 Sigma though. Very, very reasonably accurate. The reload here being 28 seconds is also quite nice. But crucially, you get really strong torpedoes and secondaries with that improved dispersion at these ranges. So you're getting Schlieffen accuracy, Ohio, Massachusetts, these things, the accuracy on these secondaries, which can pen upwards of 30mm base. 100mm secondaries here, basically Harugumo turrets, have 30mm of pen. Little IFHE and everything is penning 32mm here. Bit of a sleeper secondary brawler here is Iwami. The secondary DPM is immense. Their pen is very, very good. Torpedoes, a nice clutch thing to have in those closer range situations. They do go 20 kilometers. You can just throw them out, doing over 20,000 alpha damage there too. But oftentimes I'm saving them for those close range engagements. Now that we've got the module damage rework, all these secondary brawlers are getting a massive bonus since they don't permanently lose their secondaries, or their torpedoes more importantly. Torps left out on the deck of these ships often got blown off permanently. Not so anymore. Very, very nice to see. Iwami is very, very good for tier 9 brawling. However, the armor leaves a little bit to be desired, okay? It's gonna die a lot quicker than things like Los Andes, for example, or certainly Valparaiso. This being a tier 9 as well as being a coal ship, value-wise, right? Maybe just save your coal to get yourself an Iwami. Pretty easy B tier for me though, maybe even A tier, although that armor certainly these days can hold it back in these brawls, as a lot of the newer secondary brawlers at tier 9, they have much better armor than you and similar damage output. But the main guns here are a highlight if you're wanting these secondary ships with the ability to use main guns that aren't just gonna be a shotgun shooting off the screen like so many of them are. Iwami is a very interesting one to look into. Ah, yes, our next S tier, Bart. I was wrong. I was wrong. I already made that video, but I've rated this ship rather low over the years, and I think that came down to the inconsistency that I found on the main guns all those times. But last year when I played this thing, for whatever reason, played it a little bit since too, it's just been working recently. Maybe I was just bad, okay? Fair enough. You can say that, I don't care, but it's been working recently. And reload booster, maybe you're someone who's never going to have the steel to Bourgogne, all right? You throw your hands up, steel takes forever to get. You're never going to get yourself a Bourgogne. Bart gets you most of the way there. It's not as fast, not as maneuverable. That's one of the features of Bourgogne. A little more consistent on Bourgogne just because of 12 guns, the volume, right? But it's still most of that playstyle. You get that reload booster efficiency. It's really, really fun to play and pretty easy S tier. Alongside only being able to get this ship during this Black Friday event, usually this ship is not available, makes it pretty easy to recommend. If you got the money for it, Bart is very fun to play. So far being one of 2 ships that I have put in S tier. Now, Karl is a new one for this year, a ship that is wanting to brawl, wanting to get close, certainly, but this time more focused on its torpedoes. It's a very interesting concept to have less powerful secondaries, less powerful main guns, but monstrous torpedo power here. They're like Holland torpedoes, only going 13.5 kilometer range, but you do get 8 of them per side with an 86-second base reload. They retain that 86 knot speed. It's very interesting if you've ever played these brawling battleships. So many of them are just good armor, secondaries, shotgun main guns. Here we've got ourselves okay accuracy, I guess, in the main guns. They're 305, so a little bit better DPM there. The secondaries don't have any improved accuracy, so not as good to rely on them, but solid for starting fires, certainly. But the torpedoes, they reload so quickly. They do not amazing damage, but you're getting so many of them out there. And the speed allows you to catch people off guard all the time. Concealment also underrated on Karl here, being 10.6 kilometers. Insane for a battleship to be that stealthy. This ship also has a hydro, allowing it to push in relatively easily. Karl is a different version of a brawling, pushing battleship than most of the other ships in the entire game. I guess Njord is the other example, dockyard ship from a while ago. That is not available. This ship normally available for doubloons these days, sometimes in trade in events. Good on you guys for remembering that in the Karl video recently. Forgot to bring that up. But this B variant is a decent way to get a discount on it. We'll see if it ever returns for anything else, but for now it seems like they're comfortable to leave it as doubloons in the armory, and now with a B variant discount on Black Friday. It's a unique and different playstyle, or tweak of a playstyle that I personally enjoy a lot. That's brawling battleships, and for that it gets up into A tier for me. Something like Iwami, it plays rather similarly to most of the other brawlers we have out there, so not as interesting, where Karl, very different, but inside that brawling playstyle that I enjoy so much. So pretty easy for me to put it up in A tier. If we were just talking about power levels and strengths of ships, Kearsarge should go a lot higher. However, I don't really enjoy playing hybrids. I don't like planes in this video game, so I don't really want to abuse them. I just don't find it very enjoyable. Kearsarge, though, is incredibly powerful. You're getting 12 406s here with good dispersion. These are North Carolina guns. They're not like Iowa guns. but it's almost like pulling Monty level firepower and giving it the ability to spot and do a lot of damage with these rocket planes at the same time. It's got a lot of HP. The AA is surprisingly good on this one. The armor, as you'd expect, not great. Gigantic tumor of a superstructure to get that flight deck, but it can play at range reasonably well. And most importantly, it's got like tier 10 levels of HP. I don't know why it gets so much HP, but like 84k base HP, there's a lot of tier 10 battleships with less than that, and it's wild how much they've given this thing. However, this ship is tier 9, and so you only get the 15% discount, and it's also available for coal. So if you're interested, you do have the coal version to go for, but Kearsarge kind of feels busted to play, I'm not gonna lie. I feel bad playing this thing. It's just a playstyle that I don't enjoy all that much. I don't think playing planes is all that fun in a game called World of Warships. So B tier for me. I can't put it too much lower considering the power level, and it's just not for me. You know, with Lazo, I think it just fits well into C tier. It's just not the most interesting ship to me. It's an HE farming light cruiser at tier 7. It does have a lot of range and reasonable shell velocity for the tier if you're used to those Soviet cruisers. It even has a really fast reloading spotter plane that does allow you to play into some of those up tiers pretty well, but it's still not that inspiring to me. But if you're interested in that sort of play style, getting a tier 7 might be interesting to you. You get that 30% discount here. However, it is also available for coal. It could, though, be an interesting option to have a premium to learn some of these light cruisers with. Certainly much easier to learn on that ship than something like an Atlanta. Not the extreme level of power that Atlanta has, but you do get way more range, way more usable guns at those ranges too, which can be nice, but it's just not that interesting to me, so C tier. This one almost pains me, guys. Loyang down in D tier? It's not 2016 anymore, unfortunately. It's not time to play Supremacy League and smoke in a Bismarck and have a Hydro DD contest all the caps. Good times playing in Supremacy League back in the day. However, it really isn't 2016 anymore, and Loyang gives up a lot to gain this smoke hydro gimmick, which so many newer destroyers do better. Either they have longer range hydros, or they also will have a radar. Not all of them, but some of them will. And certainly, the difference in gunpowder is extreme here. Most people know your gimmick already. This ship gives up a lot to gain that hydro gimmick. And it's a tier 8, and you get up tiered, and you feel like you have tier 7 or maybe even a little lower firepower at times. It's unfortunate, the position Loyang has been in since all those years ago, as I have good memories of it back in the day, certainly. But I can't recommend it in good conscience to anyone to buy these days. Certainly for $31 US or the equivalent in doubloons, there are going to be much better options for you. Pretty easy D tier for me, as sad as that is. Back to a good ship, in fact a really good ship with Mainz. I looked at this one recently, the video should be coming out soon I hope, but high DPM here is the key. This ship has ridiculous levels of DPM for a tier 8 cruiser. Looking at the AP DPM in particular, you rival something like Neptune levels of AP DPM, and that's easily the best at tier 9. So it's mostly in the pack with tier 10s as far as AP DPM goes. Wild, absolutely wild levels of damage output on this thing. The hard part is staying alive, as with all light cruisers, of course, but this one in particular it's pretty large, it's not very maneuverable, and unfortunately, we don't even have the 27 millimeters of armors all around like the Hipper would have, for example. No, we have a little bit of 27, and then the rest is going to be 25. The turtleback is actually usable, though, at closer ranges. Broadside on, you mostly be taking overpens to those battleships. A lot of close range torp power here, too. Hydro, very nice to have. You got to go a little bit too broadside to use the main guns particularly comfortably. However, you can make open water cruiser play work with it, although wouldn't recommend it. But I love this ship, the DPM, the damage. It feels so good to have that level of firepower. You know you can have an impact as long as you stay alive. Since we're at tier 8, of course, get that 30% off here with Black Friday. And this one usually available for doubloons, but if you've been interested in a light cruiser like this one, high DPM, high risk, high reward play, Could be interesting to get a discount on it right now. Pretty easy for me to put this one in A tier. Kind of fits the playstyle I'm looking for out of a cruiser, especially the DPM. It's really, really nice to have that level of firepower. And right back up into S tier. Where else was this one gonna go? Okay, it's like my favorite ship in the game. You can only get it during this Black Friday event. If you're interested at all in brawling battleships, Massachusetts still holds up. The guns hit really hard. You have the fast cooldown heals. The secondaries light a lot of fires. Great DPM on them. Supplemental damage into cruisers and DDs as well. Very, very nice to have. Torp protection here, just like Alabama. Very, very solid. Maneuverability also great. This is why Alabama is so low, by the way. This ship just does the brawling thing way better than Alabama could ever hope to. And if you're looking for more accuracy mid-range play, well then the NC just gives you better accuracy in mid-range play. That's why. Alabama's this weird middle ground. Massachusetts, though, full-on brawling champion of Tier 8. At least for me. Maybe some of these new ones give it a run for its money, certainly. The new Pan American battleship line certainly is a little bit scary to go up against, but I still love me a Massachusetts. And if you're interested in the similar kind of gameplay as I am, I think you're going to enjoy Massachusetts as well. And one of the only problems really with Massachusetts is that it doesn't have a hydro to push in with. It's hard to time things correctly, not knowing when those torps are coming or where they're coming from. That is a challenge, certainly. The range also leaves a little bit to be desired, especially into those up tiers. It can be hard to have battle impact. This ship dies very quickly against certain tier 10s, and it can feel like you're locked out of some of those games. But if you get into tier 8 games, tier 9 games certainly as well, ranked brawls, anything like that, Massachusetts is an absolute blast. Very, 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 very comfortable S tier. My favorite. Still my favorite ship in the game. All these years later. We're starting to look a little top heavy on this tier list. Might have to move things around, but not right now. Napoli, pretty good ship, okay? A bit of an understatement there. This ship is extremely powerful. Tier 10 cruiser, sap secondaries absolutely annihilate anything within their range. You get a fuel smokescreen, exhaust smokescreen, covers your ship at full speed instantly. This ship is so incredible to be pushing in with, to be kiting, to be anywhere in the battle. It seems like Napoli can get some great efficiency out of it. You do want to get to those closer ranges, though. The armor holds up incredibly well, shattering a lot of HE. You're not going to get overmatched by basically anything. Small superstructure. Torpedo power at close range as well allows you to rather comfortably get into those very YOLO positions. And the sap secondaries are just ridiculous how much DPM they have. They're very accurate too, built in a lot of accuracy here. Downside, I guess, being the main guns, a little lower DPM, not particularly consistent accuracy-wise, but they're still 254 millimeter guns. When they hit, if they hit, I guess I should say, they hit very, very hard. AP, certainly HE can do reasonably well too. But it's this combination of crazy armor, detect, secondaries, and this smoke that allows you to go dark whenever you want to. Napoli is just incredible. Still, even in random battles where things are passive, it makes it work. However, the reasons against Napoli would be you're not interested in brawling, I guess. That's certainly a reason to not go for it. And the price. I know I said I wouldn't do value, but this ship's also available for coal. So the B variant, 15% discount here on tier 10. It's available for coal if you're interested in this ship. But gameplay-wise, playstyle-wise, if you're interested in brawling with a cruiser this time, very, very strong ship. Easy A tier for me. Another new one for this year is Neustrashimy. This tier 9 Soviet destroyer does not have the best DPM on its main guns. However, what this ship has is super healing for days. This ship just lives, okay? Trying to kill it is very, very hard. It's got smokes as well, so it's not forced to open water like a lot of the heal-based destroyers have. The concealment here is great. I know it says that it's got poor torp range, but it's still 10-kilometer torpedoes with great detection. It's going to dictate a lot of engagements when they start. And trying to trade with this thing, if it has any support, is very, very difficult because it just will not die. Any damage you do to it, it's going to heal it back. It's an interesting ship to play. It's a very expensive ship to get, though, too, here. Nearly $100 US is a lot to spend. You get D-Fire, the AA defense is okay on this one too, but it's also available for coal, okay? A bit of a theme here, but ships that are available for coal, maybe just play the game, grind up some coal, just by playing, getting your daily crates, that kind of thing, more resources, containers, and you should get this one. Not quickly, but you'll get it eventually. Perhaps not the most interesting ship for me personally. It's lacking that DPM. 4 guns, the dispersion feels a little wonky at times for me too. Maybe that's just because the guns are so far apart front and back on this ship. So B tier, I think makes sense for me and how I feel about this one. Not as interesting to me, but man, it sure is unique having a super heal and smokes on a DD with this level of concealment. It just doesn't die. It's crazy. You know how I know I haven't played Pommern in a very long time? I'm starting to think it should be good. In theory, you get both the torpedoes from Tirpitz and the Hydro from a Bismarck. You get 12 guns with not the best looking dispersion on paper, but volume of fire, right? The problem with Pommern is it's a gigantic ship. The superstructure gets farmed so easily. You gotta go broadside to shoot all these guns, very broadside, and it really is horrible dispersion. 1.5 Sigma, even with 12 guns. 12 guns is not making up for 1.5 Sigma. It is so inconsistent. There are so many secondary brawling ships at tier 9 that, well, Pommern, when it was released, was pretty interesting. It's been overshadowed, I think. It's just harder to play at tier 9 with a ship like this one with so many weaknesses. The 380s here are, I mean, it's interesting. GK at tier 9, right? 380s instead of 406s or 420s, whatever. But it's just not the same. The accuracy is so much worse. GK itself gets like 1.8 Sigma, I think, something like that. 1.5 battleship dispersion is absolutely wild. The secondaries here are decent, but by no means that impressive. They're kind of that middle ground between the Massachusetts Schlieffen level accuracy and standard battleship secondary accuracy. So partway in between makes them somewhat consistent, but nowhere near the level of the Schlieffen line or anything like that. Being a tier 9 here, we do get that 15% discount, which is nice, of course, but it's also available for coal. If you're wanting to suffer, I'm sorry, maybe that's going too far, but it's hard, man. It is a struggle playing something like Pommern, okay? Now that I'm thinking about it more, I'm remembering my experiences back in the past. It's a struggle to get Pommern to work out. And if you're interested in that interesting experience yourself, it's available for coal. So I guess C tier, pretty shaky C tier though. This one could easily go down into D tier for me alongside something like Brandenburg. But having both the Hydro and the Torps does help it out a lot. Hydro is so valuable, especially for these German battleships that want to brawl, but they don't have great Torp protection at all. So for now, we'll just leave it in C tier. You know, I was absolutely shocked by how well Puerto Rico performed. Check out that video from a couple days ago if you're interested, but Puerto Rico worked extremely well, and that's probably down to the outnumbered perk. Went over that more in that video. Need to try out more of these battle cruisers though. Puerto Rico, Alaska, very similar playstyle. Puerto Rico though, battleship dispersion, not battle cruiser dispersion, which is why going up to 12 guns, not just 9, doesn't feel that much different from Alaska to Puerto Rico. All that matters is the number of shells you hit, right? So if you shoot more but you miss more, it kind of comes out in the wash, right? So a tier higher, it's got more HP though, a little better armor, as well as retaining the very nice American radar here, 10-kilometer range. You get that access to a Hydro or a D-Fire. Plenty of HP, decent enough armor for a battle cruiser. You're not a battleship, but battle cruiser. You can tank some, certainly. I was shocked how well it performed, though, by the way. But I can't in good conscience put it higher than B tier. I mean, look at the price. Like $400 US. You're getting all the new ships with this bundle, but I can't. I mean, it's your money, okay? Your money, you do whatever you want with it, okay? But this is way too much for me, okay? I'm no economist. I'm not going to touch that whole topic with a 10-foot pole, but I've been to the grocery store. The number is a little higher than it has been in the past, okay? This ship also not available that often, right? Came back only once after its initial dockyard for another dockyard. This is the third time it's come back, so that FOMO element, I suppose, would get some people too. So I guess B tier seems reasonable. If the gameplay from playing it for this week for that Puerto Rico video, if that held up and was consistent, it would probably be an A tier for me. I actually had a really good time with it, but the price, right? I know I talked about I wasn't going to talk about value, but I can't put it any higher. Okay. And if you're interested in this, in that ship, Puerto Rico, and you want that playstyle, just get an Alaska right now. That's all. I reserve the right to dump Repulse down into below D tier if I play it for a video in the next month and 6 guns troll me, okay? But this ship, it's fast, battlecruiser dispersion, 2.0 Sigma. It's got an engine boost on top of that. It's got decent enough HP for its tier, reasonable concealment. And unlike all these low tier, it's fast. You can get around the map. If you're someone who has annoyances with very slow, clumsy, boring battleship play at low tier, tier 6 here in this case, Repulse is an interesting option. The AP here is solid. All the cruisers have no armor at this tier, so having that shorter fuse time on the AP is very nice. The HE has a ton of pen, decent fire chance as well. Seems good, right? Seems good. And 6 guns, though, that might be the killer for this ship. Another reason that maybe Dunkerque goes a little bit lower is that Repulse B is available here. 30% off gets you a $16 US ship. You can almost think of this one as one less turret, but a Warspite that's way quicker to get around the map if you're interested in that. Although the armor is even a little bit worse, I would say. But you should be fast enough to get out of those bad positions. B tier seems reasonable for now, but again, if I play this and we get the classic 6 guns trolling PQ, I'd have to create a new tier. Another new ship for this Black Friday and another S tier, Rhode Island. This ship is awesome, okay? This ship is very, very good. It's got the utility of a cruiser, an American cruiser, but it's a battleship. It's got battleship level armor for the most part, okay? The superstructure is gigantic. We talked about this in a main video already. Bow stern being 27 only is a downside, certainly, but if you think about it like an Alaska, but even bigger, or a Puerto Rico, but even bigger, tankier than those ships by a little bit, I would say too. Fast cooldown on the heel. Secondaries actually are like Georgia secondaries too. It's like a Georgia hull with a little bit worse bow stern armor, but it retains the heel, it retains the secondary accuracy. You get an engine boost here. It's incredibly fast, and you still have a radar. 9 kilometers though, not 10 kilometers, but that's still incredible utility for a battleship. Battleships just don't have this level of utility for cap contesting. And to have this alongside already the cruisers on your flank, right? You're not taking up a cruiser slot to bring all of this utility. That is absolutely powerful on whatever flank you're going on. Or in a div, okay? In a div, it's even nuts. But on a flank, even in random battles, right? You're going to have a cruiser on your flank. You're going to have a DD on your flank. Maybe you get 2 or even 3 radars that way. Good luck to the enemy team at that point. It's so fast to get around the map. The concealment here is great. It's just surviving in it. You can't treat it like a standard battleship. It's not tanky like a Massachusetts for brawling, okay? It's not going to survive that long. Even Georgia survives longer. Similar superstructure weaknesses there, but I mean, Georgia has the 32 on the bow. Battleships, if they know where to aim, can easily get through you there. The only problem here is going to be the main guns aren't as powerful as battleship main guns. You're going to feel like you should be shooting HE more, as you should be with this one, unfortunately. I would prefer the AP focused battleships. That's maybe one of the reasons that I'm not as big a fan of Rhode Island. But the AP, when it hits, quite accurate overall. Battlecruiser dispersion, 1.7 Sigma here, but 12 guns still. Fast reload. The AP shells have improved pen angles slightly. It's not like Des Moines pen angles like you'd get on Alaska or Puerto Rico, but still, plus 5 degree pen angles is very, very nice. 50 to 65 degree ricochet angles instead of 45 to 60, which is standard. And it's overall pretty consistent into broadside cruisers, and against battleships, you can burn them down very effectively. The other problem, I guess, being the price, right? $100 US or equivalent of doubloons, like 26k doubloons, something like that. It is not cheap. But Rhode Island was initially available in a FOMO event for like over $200 US, 250 somewhere, $250 US, somewhere in there. And I'm very happy to see it back for a much more reasonable direct purchase price here this Black Friday. Those of you that are interested in the ship probably already have it at this point. A lot of people are very excited to see Rhode Island, I know. So you probably already got it. But if you're on the fence, it's very expensive, I know. But the playstyle there is incredibly powerful if you play it more like a battle cruiser than a battleship. That would be my one bit of advice there. But pretty easy S tier, very, very powerful ship. You know, I'm really not sure where to put Scharnhorst this year. It's a really fun battleship. I enjoy playing it still. When you get into those brawls, it's so nice to have these smaller, fast turret traverse, fast reload guns here. It's much more engaged that way. You're not having the 6-gun problem like Gneisenau has. The secondaries here are quite solid. Again, that middle ground dispersion, much like we talked about with Pommern, Brandenburg, things like that. It's not Schlieffen accuracy, but it's not as bad as standard battleship secondary dispersion here. You get torpedoes for close range brawls, turtleback, it's fast as well. It's a fun tier 7. In up tiers, it's a lot harder to make it work. The guns really fall off on their power level. HE doesn't have a lot of damage or fire chance. The AP tends to shatter on a lot of higher tier battleships. Dispersion seems to not be that amazing in practice, even though it's 2.0 Sigma battleship dispersion, 20-second reload on 9 guns. It should feel more consistent than it is. Maybe it's because we're building for secondaries a lot of the time. I suppose that would make sense. It's fun, okay? It's fun. But for Black Friday, you know, 30% off tier 7 looks pretty good, looks pretty reasonable. But let's remember that the Scharnhorst 43 is available for coal these days. And there you exchange 3 seconds of main gun reload, so a little bit worse on the main gun DPM for better secondaries, a little bit less alpha on the secondaries, but they have way higher fire chance and they reload a lot faster. Similar DPM, just way more fires is what comes out of them. And crucially, it's got ridiculous torp reload, 45-second torp reload here. Most of the time, you're not getting multiple torp salvos off from these secondary brawler battleships when they use their torps at close range. With Scharn 43, it's only a little longer than a Vermont salvo to wait. It's so fun. And you got an engine boost, 15% engine boost. It just cranks up the Scharnhorst playstyle to 11. It is so much fun. It's everything Scharn felt like back in the day, 2017 glory days, but modernized. And Scharn 43 I find to just be way more fun. It brings that old school Scharnhorst playstyle up into the more modern, more passive games. It accelerates everything Scharn can do, and that ship's available for coal. And while Scharn regular, this B variant, is still very, very good, if you have to choose, I would choose Scharn 43. Not just because it's a little bit more fun, a little more powerful in my opinion, but also it's coal. It's coal. Just play the game a bit and you can earn yourself that ship completely for free. So does it make sense why I'm not sure where to put this thing? I guess we'll go B tier. Fun to play. It still could be up in A tier, I think, but given that Scharn 43 exists, I think it understands why it's kind of middle of the road, just a B tier. Another new one for this year, and a little obscure to find relative to the other ones, as it's only in sequential bundles, is Schill. And I'll be honest with you, I do not like this thing. You get Scharnhorst guns with cruiser dispersion 2.0 Sigma. You only get 6 of them, I guess, is what it comes down to as well. Reload booster here. You get a heal at tier 8. The armor is all right as a flanking battle cruiser. It's fine enough. You get a hydro too. I just don't enjoy playing this thing. I've tried it a couple times. You guys have forced me to try it a couple times. I just don't find myself having great games in this one. So for me, it falls a long ways. And if you are interested in this thing, it's only available during this Black Friday event. Seems like it's not usually available in the armory, at least not that I could see. It's here in this offers for doubloons sequential bundle. It is not 7,000 doubloons like it says here. You got to buy every bundle preceding it, which turns out to be, I think, 19,000 doubloons, somewhere in there. So very, very, very expensive for this tier 8. And a lot of the preceding stuff here, I mean, it's it's not even good stuff, right? Like, what do you get? One? You get a single premium Black Friday container okay, that's, again, value. What is value? It's your own money, okay? It's your own money, fair enough. But for me, it's D tier, okay? It's D tier. It's not a very interesting ship to me, and those sequential bundles don't look that good. Unfortunately, this year, Sims wasn't on like that mega discount. Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but wasn't Sims in previous years like sequential bundles or something? It made it like ridiculously low cost. Anyways, it's just the normal 30% off tier 7 at this point. C tier for me with Sims because it's actually a fun ship to play at tier 7, honestly. It's not particularly powerful though. The torpedoes are a little funny to use. Either you run the really short range ones where you can't really stealth torp, but they're actually doing respectable damage and speed, or you run really slow, really low damage ones that you can stealth torp with. The guns, you get 4 turrets, not 5 like you would on a Mayhem, so you lose out on a lot of DPM there. However, this is probably the most maneuverable ship in the entire game. The rudder shift here base without rudder mod is 2.7 seconds on a 500 meter turning radius. So you can dance around a lot of incoming fire. Really fun, solid gunboat, learning to play open water gunboats with poor shell velocity. You can have a lot of fun with Sims at tier 7, all right? It's just not terribly powerful these days. I still like it though, and so for me, it goes in C tier. A lot of that playstyle though, you still retain with playing just the regular American destroyer line with better torps, more gun DPM, that kind of thing. You still get those amazing American smokes that last forever. And maybe I'm remembering it wrong previous years, but you know, $20 US, 30% discount on Sims seems fine enough, I guess. Doubloon cost as well, equivalent. But I think we'll just leave this one in C tier. It's not here yet, but Smolensk should be available in an auction soon this update. At least that's what the dev blog has said about this latest update for Black Friday 2025. So we'll rate it anyway. I'm going to just put it in B tier. I am assuming it's going to be a very expensive auction. Again, I don't really want to talk too much about value, but usually these auctions are kind of ridiculous. Certainly saw that with Hildebrand as well recently. Smolensk is a very powerful tier 10 light cruiser. It's not quite the DPM of Colbert, but you get smokes, you get better arcs, better base range as well. It's a very powerful ship. You get torps as well, which Colbert doesn't have. It's an easier version to play than Colbert if you're looking for that light cruiser playstyle at high tier. It's still extremely powerful, but it's just not as interesting to me, I guess, these days. I don't know. There's many other light cruisers I would rather play. For power level, for farming in randoms, in a div, anything like that, where you have spotting, it can easily go up into A tier, or maybe even S tier if you're a real light cruiser player. But I prefer playing Colbert personally, and it's still a good ship though. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it in B tier. I'm not particularly interested in it though, as far as an auction goes. But again, that's getting into that value discussion, which I should leave up to you guys. We'll see what it actually comes out for in a little bit. Hopefully Wargaming announces that at some point, but it's not currently in the armory when I'm making this video. The original brawling battleship, not with secondaries, but the torpedoes. Back in the day, the ship did not have the extra secondary range. This was before the Bismarck and that whole GK line initially released. This was just a German premium, and we did not have any other German premium battleships in the game. It got the secondaries a little bit later, and nostalgia reasons maybe, but I still like Tirpitz, even above Brandenburg, for example. It doesn't have the DPM of Brandenburg secondaries, but I find the guns to be a little bit better than Brandenburg guns. That's why I'm putting it a little higher. The extra HP here helps out a lot too. No hydro like we would have on Bismarck, but we do get those close range 6-kilometer torpedoes, which are extremely fun to use. Again, Massachusetts looming large. But still, Tirpitz is a reasonably fun ship to play. I've already recorded a video, that one in Mainz. I was pre-making those 2 videos. That should come out a little bit later. And I had a decent time with Tirpitz still, but its superstructure gets hit so hard, man. It gets smashed. And the secondaries don't have that full accuracy like we see on the Schlieffen line. And it's that middle-of-the-road secondary accuracy like we've already talked about with Brandenburg, Pommern, these kinds of things. It's fine. It's reasonable. The 380s here can do decent damage, 8 guns, battleship dispersion, 1.8 Sigma, not the most consistent, but they at least do have decent range, allowing you to play in those up tiers, those more passive games, and still at least shoot your guns, where Massachusetts lacks that range. Shell velocity also a lot better than Massachusetts. 26-second reload here is quite nice, can surprise people who maybe are expecting a 30-second reload on battleships at this tier. It's definitely been around for a while though, so if you're interested in Tirpitz and maybe you still don't have it yet, Black Friday can be a decent option to get yourself a 30% off on a Tirpitz. However, if you're just looking for the playstyle, yeah, there are other ships I would recommend, like Massachusetts chiefly. You don't get the Torps at close range certainly, but I do find Massachusetts much tankier, much more powerful overall. There are still some good times to be had in Tirpitz though, so I think we're just going to leave it in C tier. It's not the worst option, certainly. It's just kind of middle of the road pick for brawler battleship these days. Better options, certainly in Black Friday. And we got ourselves Yoshino rounding out this tier list for now. Azuma plays very similarly, so they go in the same tier for me. Playstyle wise, pretty much the same. Yoshino, a little better than Azuma. You know, it's a tier higher, but the reload is better, the range is better. Armor, you get 30 millimeters of armor finally, although you'll be facing more of those 457s at tier 10. But really long range torps that do a lot of damage is fun to play around with. This ship also is more easily able to play at those longer ranges, and that makes the ship a little bit more boring, but a little bit more effective as well. The guns are extremely powerful here as well, but it's also available for coal. So a ship like this one, tier 9, tier 10s, only to get that 15% discount. It's a lot of money to spend, and you could just play the game and earn some coal to get this ship. You do not have that improved heal, unfortunately. You get more of them, sure, but you don't actually get the 40-second cooldown on this one. But generally, I would prefer to play Yoshino. Just having the option for torpedoes is more enjoyable than Azuma. They have basically the same matchmaker these days, because tier 9 is one of the worst possible matchmakers to play these days. And having that extra 30 millimeters of armor is quite useful. There's still plenty of 406 mil battleships out there, especially if you get some of those down tiers that you can bounce then. Suddenly the armor profile is a lot better on the Yoshino. Still though, these passive games, it fits the meta very well, but I don't enjoy the passive HE at long range meta, even though Yoshino does it very, very well. If you're looking for a chill ship to play, I have had some fun times with it in the past just because it is quite relaxing, even into these very passive meta games at high tier. Your battleships are camping, doesn't matter. You can camp back there with them. You have more than enough range, shell velocity, and accuracy to make it work. So I think that's about it for our tier list. Actually, I didn't put it on here, but we do have the Shinonome B, the tier 7 Japanese destroyer. It's not that good. You can just get it for free in the campaign. I suppose if you already have the regular Shinonome and then you get the B variant, you get a refund on those doubloons you put into the event pass, I guess. I've seen people talk about that. It's still not a very interesting ship, in my opinion. I put it in D tier, personally. And then Lushun B is our dockyard right now. Black Friday dockyard, new for this year. Lushun would go up probably in A tier for me. It's a very good ship, but a little bit different than the regular Black Friday sale is kind of what this tier list has been. But Lushun B, if you've been grinding out that dockyard, very, very solid ship, and love to see more of these dockyards return. Maybe we get more of these B variant ones on past dockyards. That would be very, very cool. So there it is, the updated 2025 Black Friday tier list. A lot of vibes going into this one. I had fun just messing around talking about all of these ships with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it this far and didn't just skip to this timestamp, hello, welcome back everyone. I'm just messing. It's a long video. I don't mind at all. You probably just wanted to see the results. Little context on all of these, of course, is in the rest of the video, but overall, most of these ships are at least fun to play, mostly fun to play, or they fit a very specific playstyle. You'll notice some of the ships towards the top tend to fit my playstyle a little bit more, but a lot of great options for Black Friday this year. Really enjoyed going over this with you guys. Let me know what your favorites are in the comments down below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.